Hello, my name is Wes Dawson, and welcome back to another episode of Gabagool and 8. Now, a little known fact is that most North American woodland creatures, if you pin them underneath your left arm and block just the right holes, you can actually play them like a bagpipe. So much like the poor fawn that I caught foraging in my front yard yesterday morning, let's make some music, as this is the music episode. Now, I know most people are pretty quick to say, I listen to every kind of music. Well, that's complete horse shit, because anybody who says that, I'll play you some Children of Bodom, I guarantee that's not your cup of tea. But for myself personally, my two favorite bands are NoFX and Queen. I couldn't think of two more polar opposite bands to hold in such high regard. And of course, when discussing music, I like to keep in mind a quote from none other than Nasty Nathan Sharp, a man of many words, of thought-provoking and insightful commentary, and if you believe the rumors, many a venereal disease. Either way, let's hear what he had to say.
Listen up. Read my lips. If you can read through this, read them. If not, listen. I am a proud music snob, and I have no issue, do you hear me? No issue in saying that my taste in music is better than yours.
So we're going to discuss all facets of music in today's episode. Your favorite music, your most hated music, music composition, those guttural noises coming out of your uncle's basement, whether or not you should be concerned about that, we're lumping it all in for the music episode. Now, one question on my mind is, what is ska music? Now, I was first introduced to ska through Less Than Jake and their song Nervous in the Alley. Now, of course, I'd like to think that Less Than Jake is above your run-of-the-mill ska bands, but I have plenty of detractors who would say otherwise. Now, two friends, let's call them Alex and Levan. Of course, one name I kind of coded, the other, his name is so unique and original, I dare not mess with it. Either way, both these people hated ska with a passion. I have never seen people put so much energy into hating a horn section in my life. Now, they both had compelling points, but they just could never seem to wrap their ears around that upstroking good time with a couple trumpets in the background. Now, I can't say much for Alex, as he seems to like to listen to various tones and bips and bop noises and calls that music. So, hey, whatever floats your weird Gen Z boat. And Levan, well, I give him a bit more credence as he introduced me to Megadeth, so he gets a pass on most my criticisms on his music. Now, my journey into the world of musical exploration started innocently with just some pop music I found on cassette tapes of my mother's. And yes, I said cassette tapes because I'm 67 years old. Then I moved on to more kind of old rock and roll, your Bill Haley, your Elvis Presley's, the like. And for a short while, I am not ashamed to admit it, I was a Spice Girls fan. Now, this was during my prepubescent years, so I don't know if this was due to me appreciating their musical abilities or more so the visual display that they would put on. Regardless, all of that changed on my 12th birthday when my auntie bought me Boston Walk On, again on cassette. Now, that album changed my life and gave me a completely different perspective on rock music until I turned 13 and I first heard NoFX's Pump Up the Volume, and then my journey to listening to better music than you began. So it's no exaggeration when I say I do listen to a variety of music. And although this sounds like extreme pandering, at the time, some of the groups I liked were people like DMX, Dre, Busta Rhymes. These were the few that I legitimately liked and would listen to outside the context of a pathetic secondary 2 party. For those of you not hailing from the nation of Quebec, secondary 2 is grade 8. Now, today, the only comparable rap band I could say I'd listen to would be something like Brockhampton, because personally, the whole mumble rap thing, not real big on that. Pretty much the only littles I'll put up with it is either Little Mayo or Little Bo Peep, or that little thing I greet every morning in the shower. You know, got your light rock, you have your Bostons, your Kiss, your Bare Naked Ladies. Yes, it's a guilty pleasure. I won't lie. I don't know if it's the maple syrup coursing through my veins. I don't know what it is. There's some talented musicians. And of course, we have female artists like Sarah Blackwood from Walk Off the Earth, Brody Daly, Rachel Platten. Honestly, I'm open to listening to any type of music genre. I enjoy exploring new things. You know, your Spotify end-of-year roundup was not only eye-opening, it was embarrassing to some degrees. I could probably generalize by saying that all music is good music, except mumble rap and, let's say, jazz, because jazz is stupid. And for a while, I thought I was getting into traditional throat singing. Turns out the audio clip I had was actually from a scrambled home video my brother made while experimenting sexually during his more formative years. course, now it is hard to name bands or list your favorites because much like streaming content, it's so saturated, there's so much out there, it's kind of hard to pinpoint what you like and don't like. The advent of Spotify brought unlimited music, but also created a never-ending list of bands that, I haven't listened to them yet, but I gotta get there. Now it's so easy to discover and consume new music. I remember when I was a kid begging my parents to quit cooking what I thought was rock candy in the basement just to drive me 45 minutes one way to be able to buy a new album. It's ridiculous to think how much things have changed. I remember the excitement of hunting down albums or buying an album purely based on the artwork and realizing that not only did the artwork suck, but the music sucked too. And this collection of albums, you curate your own listening library. You had bragging rights with certain albums. And based on your album collection, it would say something about you. It involved work, dedication. Like 10 years ago, somebody seeing I had a copy of Misfits Cuts from the Crypt, that would easily be a talking point. And of course, the problem today now is that everybody is a music expert. You ask someone, hey, what was your favorite work by Kurt Cobain? And they'll say, how can you name a favorite? Every Rose Has Its Thorn was a true classic. Now, a good friend of mine who is hearing impaired have never heard the Beatles. Go figure. I listened to the Beatles for the first time when I was 32 years old. For fuck's sake, I almost cried at work, and that is no joke, that is no exaggeration. I listened to Yesterday. It changed my life. I was convinced that the Beatles were just hippie dribble. And of course, a lot of it was, but some of it were authentic and timeless bangers. Let's move on to good bad. So a good, exploring new genres of music. The bad, jazz and mumble rap. A good, the constant evolution of music. The bad, that if you dye your hair blue and sing about ooh woo and poking your little fingers together, you'll probably get like 8 million streams on Spotify. What the fuck is going on with this world? Much like reining in that beast you picked up 2 summers ago after a half bottle of Jägermeister, it is time to rein in as we are at the end of this episode. So upcoming for next week, we are going to do the movie episode, so be ready for that. Also, we're going to go through the top 5 cleaning products to spice up your house parties without violating your probation. And also my top 3 life hacks for convincing your elderly neighbors that you're actually one of their grandchildren and you haven't been receiving your birthday cards for some time. And I think the main message I want to get across is that there is no such thing as bad music, except for maybe the 2 genres I listed earlier. Be proud of what you listen to, experiment, listen to different things. If you're like my friend Alex and you like listening to different beeps, bops, and the sounds of teardrops falling, go for it. Your music tastes are just that, your music tastes. Everyone else can go fuck themselves. So all that and more on next week's episode of Gabagool 8. My name is Wes Dawson. Thank you. Please listen, like, share, and subscribe. And remember, if you're going to start playing a new instrument, regardless of what your teacher says, don't start with the skin flute.